guys, this is Sean McGarry coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, home of the music salon where great things happen. Hope everyone is doing awesome out there. I got a really good lesson today. I think this is one of the more important lessons that you'll see on this channel. This is really, I have no idea what I'm going to call this yet, but it's going to be something epic here. So it's really how to master the fretboard with a couple of concepts. Really, it's an ear exercise more than anything, okay? So let's look at this chord progression I was playing over, okay? And one thing we're going to talk about is like adding a secondary dominant to a chord progression. Now, I'm not going to get into the I've got videos on secondary dominance, but like for right now, would I just tell people, instead of getting into the whole thing, just know that when you harmonize a scale, you go like this. So these chords that are minor, and I don't even know if this is proper advice, but this is how I think about it, okay? So somebody might say, don't listen to Matt McGarry guy, he's an idiot. But I just think of it as a minor chord in the scale, the diatonic scale that you make into a major, because that's really what my ear is hearing. So according to the laws of diatonic harmony, if you go E major, look who just joined me. First time ever. I've been trying to get her in here, my cat Maggie. I'm hoping she'll jump in here, but you just saw that. She might make an appearance here. Come on up, buddy. I'm a big cat guy, and I've got a cat named Maggie, and there she is. All right. So when you play the harmonized scale, you're going E major to F sharp minor to G sharp minor to A major, okay? But if you take one of those chords and make it a dominant chord, you know, a 7 or major or dominant 7, that's all it is. So if I go, that's all it is, okay, for the sake of this lesson today. So the chord progression now is E major. Come on up, Maggie. Come on up here, buddy. Her name is Maggie. I named her officially. Her full name is The Adventures of Rain Dance Maggie, which was a Chili Peppers album, and I came out the day I got her. Okay, so there she is, and I guess she'll be in here for this whole lesson. So E major, G sharp or G sharp 7. C sharp minor, E7, A major, B major, E major, B major, start over. And this is a pretty common chord progression. You hear this a lot. And I will have I'll have tabs to all this, all these little exercises I'm about to show you today, and on my Patreon page. You can play any kind of rhythm you want. I would say take it slow, you know. You got to hear that chord progression. Now, this is very important. We're going to get into today. So let's dive into it. So the first thing I want to do is these triad sets and how these things work. Actually, let me back up even further. Let me just show you this little exercise, okay? So you can look at this with a chromatic little riff here. Watch this. You can hear this chord change, listen. There's your resolve. Now I'm going to show you why that works right now. So every one of those notes is connected to a triad of this chord progression. So we're in a key of E major, so look, here's my first chord. That's my E inversion. Like I said, I'll have all this tabbed out for you guys as a little exercise in the Patreon page. But here's the chords. I'm doing E major. So these chords are right there, man. Once you understand like these groupings, it's really important to get these groupings down. So E major, G sharp. That's our secondary dominant. Now watch this. I'm hardly moving. C sharp minor. Let's do that again. E major, G sharp, C sharp, back to E major, right there. Now we can move up and down a little bit, but you want to keep it as close as possible when you're doing these groupings. Let me do it one more time. So every one of those notes is connected to the chord. Back to E. So you can see that all those notes are connected. Now let's do it in some other spots. Let's go up here. So here's my E major. Right here, E major. Take that full chord, that E major bar chord, and there's your triad. Now again, we're hardly moving. Look at this. This time I'm moving that note back. Now I could actually, I'll show you this first because I could actually do it up here. These chromatic movements all over, so I'll show you both ways right here. So here, there's my E major. And my root is right in the middle there, that chord. Here's my E. So I'm going E, G sharp, hardly moving, look. C sharp minor, barely moving. E7, let's do it again. Barely moving, A major. Same shape, E major, back to E, back to B, sorry, or B7. So there's all kinds of options you're doing that, but look, so if I do that note there, look, one more time. Those notes were connected to the chord. So right there was that note. Connected, look, I'm moving up again. And then back down to A. Okay, so now let's move up the neck. Let's go to this next position. And here I'm going to play my E shape right here, which is or my E chord, which is like an F shape. Actually, let's do a little lick again, that little chromatic thing. So here it is up here. So I'm moving that right here. You can see that first note is right out of that F shape. Now look at this. A shape, okay. Look at this. D7 shape is now a C sharp minor. E7, back with A shape, A. Okay, so I'll do it again real slow, but you can see the idea here. Again, we're just taking these smaller shapes and we're figuring out all these notes you can land on. And like I said, your ear will be so much better just practicing this little thing. You're going to really hear the movement of chords and how things fit, and then you can start nailing those chord tones in your solo instead of just playing like a scale over that. So if I'm playing over this, it doesn't work. Kind of does, right? But you really want to hear, it's like if I'm playing. So watch this, I'm going to nail the chord tone. those chord tones and you really hear those chords change. So that's the idea of this, man, is you're going to get better at soloing and improvising when you do this. So here's my F shape, A shape, D7 shape, which is C sharp minor, E7, A shape again, which is B, back to this guy, which is E, B. So that's a lot of chords. That's a lot to memorize. I'm going to do everything one more time real slow. All these positions we just did. So if we start back up here, and there's more, we could keep going, different higher inversions, lower ones. I like to start in this middle grouping of strings because it's a nice place to add your chords and your solos and the scale tones. So if I start up here, right, E, G sharp, C sharp minor, E7, A, B, E, B, B7. I moved up there so I could be closer to this. I'm going to start over. E, G sharp, C sharp minor, E7, A major, B major, E major, B, back to E, G sharp, C sharp minor, E7, A, B, E, B. It's hard to keep up myself here. So let's start with that. Okay, that's a lot of information to process. And I'm going to do some follow-up videos on this, once we have that down, like soloing over it in some chord tones. But that's a really good exercise. I think you guys will get a lot out of that. So as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you got something out of it, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. I appreciate that. And also jump on over to my Patreon page for tabs to all this stuff and some bonus stuff, backing tracks, different lessons. And thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. And glad you got to see my cat Maggie for once in a video.